ഞാൻ പറയാം കേരളത്തിലെ വൺ ഓഫ് ദ ടോപ്പ് ഫാഷൻ ഡിസൈനിങ് കോളേജ് നിർമ്മല കോളേജാണ്. കാരണം ഇത്രയും നന്നായിട്ട് എനിക്ക് പറയാൻ കഴിയുന്നത് ഞാൻ 2012 മുതൽ ഇവരുടെ കളക്ഷൻസ് കാണുന്നതാണ്, ആ കുട്ടികളുടെ പ്രോസസ്സ് കാണുന്നതാണ്. അതിലുപരി ഈ ടീച്ചേഴ്സിൻ്റെ എഫർട്ടും അവരുടെ ബുദ്ധിമുട്ടും കാണുന്ന ഒരാളാണ്. അതുകൊണ്ട് ഒരിക്കലും എനിക്ക് വാക്കുകൾ കൊണ്ട് പറഞ്ഞു
morning to all participants who've joined with us for this webinar. We have participants from various colleges and institutions with us. A warm welcome to all. Let us begin the program by invoking the blessings of Lord Almighty. I take this opportunity to extend a warm and hearty welcome to our beloved guest, Dr. Sanu Jacob, Honorable Chairman of Nirmala College, Mr. Sajeev Vatoli, Director Ms. Dali Sajeev, Principal Mr. Murugan Babu CR, and Vice Principal Dr. Jojo C. Akara. Nirmala College, affiliated to the University of Calicut, offers various undergraduate programs in commerce, management, computer applications, English, multimedia, costume, fashion designing, food technology, tourism, and hotel management. As a college that aims at excellence and first class education above all, even during these trying times, we have made it our goal to open all forms of opportunities to our students via online forums. As part of this courageous endeavor, Emerge 2021 was reborn. I now call upon the pillar of the organization and an exemplary academician, Professor Murugan Babu CR, for the welcome speech. Sir, please.
Thank you. Honored guest of the day, Dr. Sanu Jacob, the Director, Food Safety and Standards Authority of India. Esteemed Chairman of the Nirmala Institutions, Sri Sajeev Vatoli, the Executive Director, Mrs. Dali Sajeev, my dear colleagues and friends, good morning to you all. Friends, this beautiful, slightly bright and wet and cool morning here in Chalakudi on Saturday, 26th of June, 2021, the 6th day of this second edition of our annual webinar series, codenamed Emerge 2021, witnesses the start of the 10th session of this season here at Nirmala College of Arts and Science, Melur, Chalakudi. Well, friends, we have been enjoying a feast of academic delicacies for the last 1 week. The 2021 edition of Emerge is more sumptuous and more enlightening than the previous Emerge 2020. This is a unique academic feat spread over 14 days, 24 colorful sessions, 24 experts. Oh, it's a very, very delightful academic exercise. Friends, this is Nirmala's way of dealing with the discomfort caused by COVID-19 pandemic. Well, friends, let me now formally welcome the guest of the session, Dr. Sanu Jacob, the famous Director, Food Safety and Standards Authority of India. Not only well known for his work in the field of health and safety, but in the field of education as well. Professor Sanu has held several academic positions. He was the head of the School of Biosciences, the Associate Professor at Kerala University of Fisheries and Ocean Studies, the Associate Professor at Marathanesis College of Joint Studies, Tiruvalla, and several other prominent positions during his prolonged career. We are indeed very, very fortunate to have got such a distinguished figure to talk to us today. Sir, with a lot of love and affection, I welcome you to this session of our webinar series. Now, friends, let me formally welcome you all to this august occasion. First, the chairman of this Nirmala group of institutions, Mr. Sajeev Vatoli, and the executive director, Mrs. Dali Sajeev, who is also presiding over this function, the great duo at the helm of Nirmala, with lots of love and warmth. I welcome them both to this great event. I also welcome our Vice Principal Jojo C. Akara, the heads of departments, and all members of our teaching fraternity and non-teaching staff. I welcome them all. And finally, my dear students, the hundreds of students, who are on their mobile phones in the comfort of their homes with a lot of love and affection, I extend a very, very warm welcome to all of them. Once again, I welcome you all with best wishes. Thank you. Thank you all.
The department is indeed more than happy to have such a reputed officer amongst us today. Mr. Sanu Jacob is the Director, Food Safety and Standards Authority of India. He was also the Joint Director to the Export Inspection Council of India. He was in charge of the Inspection Agency. He was also the former faculty at Kerala University of Fisheries and Ocean Studies. Moreover, he is profoundly loved and respected by his peers and youth on whom he has got great influence. For the same reason, he was endowed with the Best Teacher Award from Tokich Institute of Science and Technology. It's indeed with great pleasure that I invite you to the webinar, sir. Now, before we start off the webinar, there are certain instructions that I want to give to the participants. To all the participants gathered here and eagerly waiting for the session, please feel free to ask your queries through the chat box, which can be answered towards the end of the session, and fill the feedback form through the provided link to get the e-certificate. Now, let us not waste a single moment and let us start our very informative webinar by Dr. Sanu Jacob. Sir, if you could please proceed.
Thank you. I hope I am audible.
Yes,
If
sir, you're
someone
audible.
can confirm. Perfect. So a very good morning to all the students. I guess it is from all over India, not only from Nirmala College. I could see that active, promotion of this 14 days uh, series, which Nirmala College is hosting, inviting various eminent personalities and giving some insight to motivate the students. Definitely it's a very great initiative. I congratulate the college on that, and my thanks to
Thank
the
you, sir.
management for giving the opportunity to say something about food, which we all love, and and also something about the FSSAI. In fact, FSSAI has now become a brand. Although we are a regulator, but you can find our logo in every kitchen, in Zomato or Swiggy app, wherever you can find the logo. At least our logo is there. The visibility of our logo is there in the kitchen for sure. And In fact, since being a Saturday, I will take a little more time today to explain in depth something about the food, something on its challenges, and also something about the law and what FSSAI is doing, what are the roles FSSAI is doing to ensure food safety management, as well as bringing wholesome food to the consumers or citizens of this country. With this words, I won't take much time. I will directly share my screen. I hope my screen is visible.
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Perfect. Now, I would urge the students, the listeners, uh, to ask questions. Lots and lots of questions. In fact, if it was a physical training, I would have loved to interact. Rather than giving a presentation, you might have learned all these things in your, lectures by different professors. They might have given what is food, what is FSSA, and all. But through questions, we can learn a great amount of things. regular interaction. So here in the chat box, you can, put your questions. Even if you feel it is not worth to ask, I would say ask, because I am a learner. I am not an expert. In fact, in the introduction, I was told the famous director. No, I am not that famous. So I prefer to be a humble director who looks forward to find some solutions where we can enhance, the development in society, through which people can have good food, safe food, and a good living. If you see the logo of World Food Safety Day, which is displayed on the right, we celebrated this World Food Safety Day. There are, 17 dots that is being shown here. So this is the mandate of UN, and the 17 dots represents the Sustainable Development Goals. You can type in Google SDG 1, SDG 2, SDG 3. So in fact, few of the SDGs are pertaining to food, like zero hunger, that means no poverty in the world, bringing safe food, quality of life. There are, I'm just giving, ensuring safe water to the humanity. So, some of the sustainable goals are addressing the food safety as well as food security issue, and we all have to strive that. So it is, not FSSAI's job. It is everyone. It's a shared responsibility, right from your home. You're in the school, college, canteen, whoever you are. It's a shared responsibility that we eat safe and wholesome food, so that we can live longer. And if you live longer, you can do much for the society, and the world can grow better. Now, food safety, this is my topic is quite short. Uh, Probably 4 words are there: food safety and FSSAI. So food safety, as I said, it's a shared responsibility. It's everyone's business. It starts even at home. Just to give you an example, like if you are at college, your mother cooks food for you. She's waiting for you. She cooked the rice, sambar, avial, and all those things. And at first, once she cooks the food, she doesn't keep the cooking pot or wherever she has cooked open. First step, she might, to prevent the flies or anything coming, she will put a lid or some cover to cover that food. So that is, kind of a food safety. She's ensuring that some outside contaminant like flies or some, spider or uh, lizard doesn't fall on the food. So one step is she is trying to, keep it in the safe mode. Of course, if you are still coming late, and there are chances that this food, might get spoiled because of the microbiological contamination. You cannot prevent the microbiomes in the air, so they might, come and affect. So next safety step she will be is keeping that food in the fridge, in the refrigerator, so that at least the shelf life can be enhanced, the temperature can be brought down, and maybe it can be eaten the next day in case if you don't turn up for that day. So these are little things which we do in our day-to-day life. So food safety is an inherent, aspect which every individual has to follow. It's not the FSSAI who does it, but everyone's responsibility. And first, we will see what is food. We should, before talking about food safety, you should know what is a food. And for that, let me see, I'm not able to. Okay. So the term food, you can see here, it comes from an old English word related to an old Frisian or a German word, fodder. You might have heard the word fodder. which we give it to cattle, cow, goat, is a fodder crop. So something which is a kind of a fuel or a feed. Now, as you know, how you want to run your car, you need a fuel like petrol, diesel. So for your maintenance of life, to give some energy, to work harder, or to go for a walk, you need some kind of a fuel, and that's the food. Now this can contain both nutritive as well as non-nutritive component. It has to be ingested, assimilated, and then once it is done, the complex food is broken down into simpler fractions like carbohydrate, fat, protein. There are certain kilocalories that you might have heard. 4 kilocalorie, the carbohydrate and protein they give in form of energy. So it gives energy. Now with that energy, you grow also as well as you maintain life. So your all this metabolic activities are going forward. So definitely food is a fuel. And you might ask, why non-nutritive? Of course, we talk about nutrition like vitamins, minerals, carbohydrate, protein, fat. They are all linked to the nutrition. But non-nutritive like water. Water is a non-nutritive substance. It doesn't have any calories. It doesn't have fat, carbohydrate. Maybe some companies are now selling mineral water with add-on minerals. But in general, when take a distilled water, or a water which is coming from some ultra filtration, it is non-nutritive in nature, and that is also very much required. Our body, the blood, it is taking a large chunk. I would say uh, the liquid in our body is quite, the percentage of liquid is quite high, and that constitute the water. So in that way, we have a material which contains both nutritive and non-nutritive things, and the purpose is it should give energy, where it should stimulate the growth, and it should maintain life. Now, my second question, in fact, you can see on the down screen, uh, some items are also mentioned here, like drugs, oil, cigarette, nail polish. Can I consider this as food? Well, no. Although we are ingesting it, like the capsules or medicines, they cannot be considered as the food. While on the extreme right, you can see extreme right and left. You can see on the extreme left is water, and on the extreme right is the chewing gum. Are, are they food? Yes, they are considered as food. So, what is the definition, legal definition of food? It is any substance, whether processed, partially processed, or unprocessed, which is intended for human consumption and includes primary food to the extent defined in the clause genetically modified or engineered food, or food containing such ingredients: infant food, packaged drinking water, alcoholic drink, chewing gum, and any substance, including water, used into the food during its manufacture, preparation, or treatment, but does not include any animal feed, live animals, unless they are prepared or processed for placing on the market for human consumption, plants prior to harvesting, drugs or medicinal products, cosmetics, narcotic or psychotropic substances, provided that the central government may declare by notification in the official gazette any other article as food for the purpose of this act, having regard to its use, nature, substance, or quality. A pretty long, definition. What I would say here is focus on the blue font and the red font. So whatever is listed on the in the blue font, they, as per the act, it is they fall under the food category. While those which are in the red font, they still are considered as a food. Say for instance, uh, there is a I have mentioned plants prior to harvesting. Now, if you see a mango, still on the tree, not harvested. So as per the legal definition, it is not a food. But once it is harvested, then it becomes a food. So this is the definition. And this definition is modifiable. It keeps changing as and when some new products are added, and it feels that this should be added into the category of food. Then the central government, by an official gazette, they will notify that, and it will bring in the food category. So food science, it's a highly interdisciplinary subject. You can connect it with agriculture, you can connect it with biology, biochemistry, physics, medicine, history, sociology, geography, mathematics, commerce, engineering, law. In fact, I would say, just to give you some glimpses, if I want to connect food with geography, so maybe GI tagging, we link that food with a particular place. Say for instance, Kozhikode biryani or Talasheri biryani. Uh, we have halwa also. There is Kozhikode Calicut halwa. So we link to that place. Mysore Park, we link, or Ratnagiri mango. You might have come across some GI, geographically indicated food are there in the market. So you can link even food with that. Mathematics, most of your modeling to understand the behavior of food, the degradation, you can use some, models, differential equations, and you can, very well link to mathematics. Commerce, economics, again, trade, food trade, your spices, coffee, tea, they are part of the commerce. The tea board, coffee board, they are all coming under the Ministry of Commerce. So definitely it can be linked to the, it is linked to the food science. Engineering, the equipments, testing equipment or processing equipments uh, can be linked. History, again, if you look back, the food has been mentioned time and again in many of the, even in the biblical, also it has been mentioned, right from the dates, from the fig, all those, even the wine, the food product has been mentioned. Medicine, of course, many fruits and vegetables, many of the food product which are having some nutritional value, antioxidant properties, they can be, linked. So what I wanted to say is that it can be linked, and it is a highly interdisciplinary subject. Sociology, you might ask how it can link, society. The food varies from society to society. We, like in Kerala, we are more inclined to steamed food, like idli, putta, appam. They are more of steam, nandran, when we cook the puringiya nandran. So it is more of a steam culture. While in North India, it is more of a frying culture. They are more into puri, chole bhature, samosa. So again, you can link different societal, strata are also having link with the food. And looking at the challenges, as I said in the beginning, microbes are one of the big challenge. And if this microbes, under certain adverse condition, especially in high temperature or low moisture, they can also create some toxins. Uh, so that is again a very danger. If it gets, come into the food system, then it can be a problem. Plant disease, like transmitting the disease from the field to the crop, we can that is again a challenge. In the factories, you might have seen the sanitation quality issue. That is the reason we have We always say ensure the FSMS, food safety management systems, or the HACCP, GMP, GHP. You might have heard all this term. Allergens, again, it is intrinsic to certain foods like wheat. Gluten is a allergen. Some people, after eating egg, they get some allergy. Soya bean, shrimps, people get, they're very intrinsic to certain food product. GMO, again, certain countries, India doesn't allow GMO food. So this is also, getting coming into the food system. Again, it is a challenge. Residues, adulterations, which are happening through pesticide residues, from the field. Pesticide was sprayed on the crop. Now the residues are there. Antibiotics in chicken, or in milk, especially if the cow is sick and you're giving some antibiotics, medicines. So those residues are also coming in the food product. Adulteration, of course, people are doing with purpose. Just, we say the economic fraud, like dilution, or even some artificial colors they get add. Uh, like, here some headline I'm showing here, like some artificial colors, are put on fruits and vegetables, just to, give a consumer appeal, attraction. We all get attracted to, food color. So all such headlines, what you are seeing here, are the challenges which comes on a day-to-day basis. Food fraud, which I already mentioned, like dilution, counterfeiting, mislabeling, concealing. Uh, so all such things are also the safety concerns. And why there is a need for food safety? Because, the population is growing. What was there 10 years back? Now it is, the population has, is growing manifold. So with that, you can see even the people are migrating from different states. You can see a good migration happening from the east of India, from the Orissa, from, coming to Kerala. You can expect changing food habit since the population is growing. So more food requirement is there. So increased processing and handling. Different kinds of products are coming in the market, and globalization of food trade. So all such things, are bound to happen because of the population growth. And for that reason, we can also expect those challenges which I mentioned in my previous slide. And that is the reason I said we need to ensure that the food should be good enough so that we can live, happily, and we can also have a disease-free life. Now, how we can ensure that? Through self-compliance, through food regulation. Imagine, I will say, imagine a situation where you have, people are driving on the road. You can find a car, motorcycle, rickshaw, auto rickshaw. There are, and there are no traffic signal. There are no police to control. You will expect, maybe in half an hour or 1 hour time, there will be a traffic jam. Because if there is a, especially in an intersection, if there is no traffic signal, then you can expect there will be a chaos. People, will go, it will be a complete blockade. So we have the traffic signal. So something like that is, an analogy I just created. We also do the same thing as a food regulator. If we allow, all these challenges to go, then, you can expect a miserable life in terms of disease. Could be cancer, diabetes, so many challenges are coming on day-to-day basis. Contamination, hygiene issues. So there we ensure that we become a regulator. We ensure we have certain, guidelines the food business manufacturer, the seller, the retailer has to follow, and they need to comply. Generally, we encourage self-compliance, kind of a self, in the union government, once upon a time, we had this gazetted officers, to sign our documents. We used to go to a gazetted officer and do the attestation of our certificate. Then after some time, it was changed to self-attestation. You can, certify on your own. Something like that. We also ensure, as food regulator, be self-compliant to what is the rules that has been given, because it's a shared responsibility. And in case if you are caught not doing the compliance, then you will have to face the consequences in terms of closure, in terms of license suspension, in terms of putting behind the bar if there are certain death or anything happens, or maybe a penalty in form of fine. Now we discussed something on food, something on its challenges. Now coming to the law part. The broader circle is the constitution. From the constitution we create the law. From the law comes the act, and to run the act we need regulations and we need rules. I'll explain what is a law. Again, it comes from the old English word lagu, which is something even, something fixed, a procedure which mend our behavior. If there is no rule, then humans, we will be just behaving absurd. So in that way, a rule is there to correct or bring you to a procedure. In the college, let me tell, there is a rule that you have to come sharp at 9 o'clock in the morning. I don't know what is your timing, but 9 and maybe 3 o'clock, the college close. So this is the rule, that the college starts at this particular time. Every hour there will be a teacher, there will be a class lecture, and by 3 o'clock so we are defining a procedure or a behavior so that students can follow. It's not like someone is coming at 10 o'clock, someone is coming at 12 o'clock, someone is coming at 7 in the evening. That is not the way. So this is a procedure which encompass the rules, which becomes a kind of a legal force, and generally it is prescribed, recognized, and enforced by the controlling authority. So the terminology, act, it is an ordinance passed by the parliament. Rule is statement which explain what someone or someone cannot do in a particular system. Regulation, it becomes a principle or a rule or a law designed to control or govern the conduct of an individual. And in terms of standard, you might have also heard standard, food standard. Standard is a document which provides the requirement, specification, guidelines, or characteristics which can be used consistently to ensure that the materials, whether it is products, process, services, are fit to their purpose. In colleges, we have this, standard called NAC accreditation. So that's a standard where the NAC has a checklist and the college has to fulfill if they want to get the accreditation of a NAC. In the lab, we have the NABL, which gives certain standard the lab has to fulfill. So which is specification guidelines that a person or an establishment has to fulfill. Now, the same analogy you can put in the food standard, which is a set of criteria that a food must meet if it is suitable for human consumption, maybe in terms of the source, in terms of its composition, in terms of its appearance, freshness, additives, etc. So this is, and I will explain further, how we go through the food standard. We have different standards in FSSAI. I'll give you a glimpse of that, and when we go forward. Now, again, I am again going a little bit more down. Many students have asked me in the past, sir, again, we are not clear what is a rule, what is a regulation. So rules are, something very generic in nature. An example of a rule is, early to bed, early to rise. It's a rule that is set by your parent. Regulation will be early to bed, say by 9 p.m. and early to rise by 4 a.m. So that is my regulation. I am, giving you a timing. Now, the rule in the college will say, in order to pass the BSc or MSc course, you have to be on regular basis. You cannot do a distance course. Okay, that's the rule. Regulation will be, you have to ensure at least 80% of attendance or 85% of attendance if you want to pass through that particular course. I hope that is clear to the students. So rules are flexible while regulation is rigid. Rules can be set by the individual and organization, while the regulations are generally done by the authority, which is in food, it is the government. And the requirement, if you want to accept a procedure as a law, then make sure it fulfills all these conditions, like it should be general, it should be promulgated, no retroactive rule making, it should be understandable, it should not be contradictory, it should not require conduct beyond the abilities of those affected. That means if you are applying it, it should be able to be applied. That means when a law is a procedure is going to be accepted as a law, make sure that it can it can fulfill all the all the societal strata. Every individual can be can imply or can comply to those. It should be constant through time, and make sure that it should not the congruence that is being applied as and when there should be what has been announced and what has been applied. It should be congruence, or there should be a equality. Now, coming to the food regulation in India, fortunately, I worked in both these organizations. The EIC, Export Inspection Council, my former organization where I worked as Joint Director, and the Food Safety and Standard Authority of India. You can see from this picture, we have food for the domestic market, that means manufactured in India, domestic food, and also food coming into India from foreign countries. So those are under the purview of FSSAI. So domestic and imported food are under FSSAI, while food that is going out of India are under the purview of Export Inspection Council. Now, there are not all food, but only certain notified commodities have to get the clearance of Export Inspection Council. So a little bit about the Export Inspection Council. It is a old organization set in 1964. It was established through an act, Export Quality Control and Inspection Act 1963. So at that time, when this act came, all the commodities, including food, non-food items, were covered. So anything that was going out from India, even a rubber tire or cement, all those materials required a prior clearance from Export Inspection Council. Somewhere in the 90s, the mandatory inspection was stopped after the liberalization came into effect. All this, World Trade Agreements happened in the 90s. So the mandatory inspection was stopped. But again, rejections were coming in the food, mainly through mainly in the food residues like antibiotics, pesticides were happening in certain products that were exported from India. And with that reason, government said, okay, the Export Inspection Council can look into notified commodities. So the policy of this organization, Export Inspection Council, is to see the inspection as well as do the certification of the exported goods, particularly notified food commodities from India, with an objective to ensure sound development of Indian export trade through quality control and pre-shipment inspection. So this is very important. And as on date, these are the notified commodities like marine products, anything which you are exporting from India, whether it is fish, crab, shrimps, all even salted or dried fish, anything which is related to marine products come under the purview of EIC. Egg products, poultry, meat products, milk products, meat and meat products, honey, processed fruit products, gelatin, animal casings, peanut, feed additives, basmati rice, black pepper. So black pepper and all for certain markets like US, when you're exporting, then it is mandatory that they should get the clearance from the EIC. Now, how the clearance is given, it is in form of, before you're sending the consignment to a foreign country, they are tested in India in one of the EIC notified or empaneled lab, and accordingly the health certificate is issued. Now here they don't see the FSSAI standard, they see the importing country standard. So if it is Japan and their requirement is the standard, what they have asked is it should meet. So the Export Inspection Council will see that they meet the Japanese standard or the European standard or the American standard. So that is the purpose this organization is doing. Now, coming to the organization where I belong, the FSSAI. So it came in 2008 through the Act, FSSAI, very famous Act, Food Safety and Standard Act 2006, and eventually the custodian to look after the implementation of this Act was given to FSSAI, which came in 2008, with the purpose, one nation, one food law. So where I'm sitting, I'm in Delhi headquarters. So we do all more of the policy framework, making regulations, and in the state it is implemented by the state authorities through the respective food commissioner, joint commissioner. In the district it is done by the designated officer, and at the field in the district it is done by the food safety officer. So any food has to have this license. They have to either have the license or the registration. This is mandatory. In the license you have different categories like the state license and the central license. It requires another lecture to look into the licensing procedure. But in a nutshell, the registration is any food business operator. I will also come in the later slide, the definition, what exactly is a FBO or a food business operator, who all are covered in that. So any food business operator who is doing a food business, whether it is manufacturing, storing, marketing, transporting, okay, even relabeling, labeling, they are supposed to get the registration or the license. This is mandatory. You may ask then what is the role of BIS and EGMARC? Of course, they are the organization which look after certain food categories on voluntary basis. But whatsoever certification they take, whether it is BIS or EGMARC, it is mandatory for the FBO to get the FSSA license or registration. So Food, Standard Act, although it came more than a decade back in 2006, prior to that, we had different, acts which were governed by respective ministry. Like you had right from the independence, we had the VOP, Vegetable Oil Product, 1947. We had the Food Adulteration Act, FPO Act, Meat Product Act. Of course, there were different ministries that were involved. And it was thought, why can't we have a food act which can, take over all these orders, individual acts, and bring in one fold. So this is how the FSSA came, which took care of all these old acts and orders and brought in one single umbrella. And as I said, it was passed by the parliament and notified on 24th August 2006. And the establishment to look after, the act, the FSSAI came in 2008. And then in 2011, the regulations started coming. And the act was fully operational on 5th August 2011. And under this act, as I said before, all food business operator, FBOs, are supposed to take a license or get registered with the FSSAI. And, FSSAI is created for laying science-based standards. So, in FSSAI, we have a division called Science and Standards. So we generally, look into the scientific implication for that product if we want to derive the standards. And based on that, we tend to regulate the manufacture, storage, distribution, sale, and import of safe and wholesome food for the human consumption. And the main feature of the FSSA is the integrated line of command. That means kind of a single window. We focus on strategic issues, unlike the old acts. We focus also on certain issues like hygiene, hygiene rating, or food safety management system. All such things are being looked into. Of course, as I said in the beginning, we promote self-compliance, and with that, we also entrust the responsibility largely on the food business operators that they be more responsible. If there is, any irresponsibility from the food business operator, then you can expect the graded penalty cases that can be filed against them. Emphasis is also given on the education, consumer education. And also we see that we are going in consistence with the global measure. So the difference between the, the old law and the FSSA, I mentioned the vegetable oil order, or the FPA or the FPO. Those were the old law. They were generally product based, while the new law, it is more, processed based. The old law focused on adulteration, while the new law focused on the substandard and unsafe food, and also the adulteration. It's not like, so if anyone is selling an inferior food, although declared in the label as a very good, product, say for instance, basmati rice. Now, consumer is paying a lot of money, a high price to the basmati rice, But if someone is selling, basmati look-alike rice, something not basmati, real basmati, but a long grain rice, they are mixed with the real basmati and they are, selling as a substandard food, then that can also be a uh, uh, the new law, in fact, covers that. Of course, the adulteration is also covered. In the old law, there was no adjudication, but here the adjudication is possible. We can, put the penalty and as well as the compounding of offenses can be done. The old law, permitted colors, additive colors were allowed within certain limit, while the new law, focus for certain, food products like Indian sweets, bakery, uh, the permitted colors within the limits are allowed. But other than that, no artificial food color is allowed in any food. And this is how the FSSAI runs. We have, the food authority, which is the supreme, which gets input from the scientific and the technical, advice, whether it is for standard or for regulations, when before it gets, to be notified in the Gazette. So the inputs are mainly coming from the scientific panel, which consists of the independent scientific expert of that particular subject area. Now, the heads of the scientific panel constitute the scientific committee, and there is a chairperson of the scientific committee, which put the the deliberation that has been accepted by the scientific committee to the authority, and from the authority it goes to the ministry, and then finally it is published in the Gazette. So this is how the authority runs. And we have the Central Advisory Committee, which looks, for closer cooperation and coordination between the state and the center. Because as I said, we have the, we do more of framing of policies, while the states are the enforcement agencies, which is done through a food commissioner. Every state has a food commissioner, and they are supposed to, undertake the enforcement through, inspection, through surveillance, through also registration and licensing, if it pertains to a state license. This is the, food standards. There are different, I have just mentioned few of them here. We have the vertical standard and the horizontal standards. So the vertical standards are, laid down for a particular food category. Say, for instance, the water, sweets, milk, fish, they are all coming under vertical. While the horizontal is applicable to all the vertical standards. Say, for instance, food additives is a horizontal standard. Biological hazard is a horizontal standard. Contaminant is a horizontal standard. Pesticide, antibiotics, because this horizontal standard can be reflected in all these products. Okay, so that is how the standards are being set in FSSAI, and they are generally managed by the Science and Standard Division. And this is the process I explained. The scientific panel, give their deliberation. Any proposal that comes to the panel is put to the scientific panel, which comprised of experts, professors, scientists from different department. If it is a fish panel, then we expect from the central government institutions, from the fishery universities, which are working on this particular sector. So they constitute the scientific panel, and then the deliberations, accepted deliberation by the panel is passed on to the scientific committee, and from the scientific committee it is passed on to the food authority. Then it goes for the legal vetting, translation, because in India it has to be bilingual. You might have seen whenever the Gazette is published, it has to be in both the language, Hindi and English. And then it is, it is notified in the WTO, the World Trade Organization, and sanitary and phytosanitary SPS, because that is the agreement. So it is put in the public domain. If there is any comments, those comments are being taken, and then again it is put to the scientific panel. Again, the process goes to the scientific committee, food authority, and then from there it goes to the another legal vetting, in case if there are comments, public comments or stakeholders comments that have been received, and then it is notified in the Gazette. So this is how it the process of developing a standard goes. And as I mentioned, the enforcement in the state is generally done by the State Food Commissioner. In the district, it is by the designated officer and the food safety officer, who is supposed, or who is authorized to do the inspection and monitoring of the food business operation in a manufacturing plant anywhere. I mean, whoever is a FBO, they are authorized to do a inspection and monitoring. They pick up the sample. Okay, either it can be an enforcement sample or a surveillance sample, give it to a lab. The food analyst is doing the analysis and giving the report. If there is a failure in the sample, then it goes to the adjudicating officer to decide the penalty or so. In the center, we have the just like the state, we have the central food safety officers, the CFSOs, which is managed through the RCD, the Regulatory Compliance Division. And in the central, it is the CEO, the Chief Executive Officer. So this is the enforcement structure. I just want to give you a micro view. The food safety officer, he reports to the designated officer. In case if the sample is failed in one of the accredited lab, which is the primary notified lab, which comes under the section 43.1. Now, we also have an appeal. The FBO can make an appeal, and it can be referred to another lab, which is called as the referral lab, which comes under, section 43.2. If you see the act, we have mentioned that. And then, all this appellate tribunal adjudication are happening if there is any prosecution against that FBO. Now, something on the food category, the FSSR has laid down different food category, right from dairy product, fat, edible oil, fruits and vegetable, confectionery, bakery, meat, fish, egg, there is a list. Number 17, focus on those products which are not listed between 1 and 16. And 99 are the category which is the substances added to the food, not for direct consumption as food. Say, for instance, your, antioxidant or additives are, added to the food, mainly not for direct consumption, but to enhance or flavors, when we add to the, so those are coming under 99 category. A brief overview of the act, there are different sections. Section 1, 2, 3 tells about the different titles, definitions. In fact, my first slide, the definition of food, which I had given, came from those. You can also find that in clause 1 to 3. While 4 to 17 speaks about the composition, the functions of FSSAI. Section 18 speaks about the general principles. 19 speaks about the food additives. 20 speaks about the contaminants, especially the naturally occurring contaminants, heavy metals. Then 21 speaks about the pesticide, 22 about the GMOs, 23 on the packaging and labeling of food, 24 on the advertisement, 25 on the import. 26 to 28, I would say it's very important if you are a food business operator to go through those responsibilities. Then 29 to 42 speaks about the act. 43 to 47 speaks about the analysis laboratory. If you remember, I had mentioned section 43.1, section 43.2. So more of the laboratory analysis and all those things. What is a food analyst? What is their role? all those things are mentioned in those section 43 to 47. 48 to 67 speaks about different offenses and penalties. Very important. I would say every food business operator who is planning to start up a food business should look into these sections, and then followed by the adjudication process, finance, accounts, miscellaneous activities, etc. So this is in nutshell uh, about the act, and I would suggest interesting students who are more interested to go through the different sections, and you will learn what are the finer aspect of the FSSA Act. We also take everyone into a fold, whether it is an industry, farmer organization, consumer, government agencies, regulators, other regulators like EIC. I was telling. So in every meeting, we do involve all such organizations, including universities, colleges, where our emphasis is that food safety is a shared responsibility. And as I was, mentioned that what is a food business operator, the definition speaks that any undertaking, whether for profit or not, whether public or private, carrying out any activity that is related to any stage of food manufacture, processing, packaging, storage, transportation, distribution of food, import and includes food service, catering service, sale of food, or food ingredient. So, everyone who is coming under this aspect are supposed to have the registration or the license. And even you might have seen in the app, Swiggy app or Zomato app, they are doing the distribution of food or transportation of food. They are also supposed to have the FSSAI license or registration. Now, something, I will speak on the hazards. Of course, you might have learned also in your, in your syllabus, what are the different physical hazard that can come in a factory. All these things, what is listed here, are part of physical hazard. We also have the chemical hazard, mainly the pesticide residue, the antibiotics, adulterants, non-permissible additives, or excess of permissible food additives, even the cleaning chemicals. And the microbiological hazards, like the bacteria, yeast, protozoa, mold, viruses. So you can expect in a food business manufacturing unit kind of contamination, especially the different sources of contamination. It can come either from water, it can come either from soil, from the raw material, from the food handlers, and also cross contamination can occur if you have not really designed your factory in a proper manner. Say for instance, you have established a washroom or or the toilet very close to the next to the where you're manufacturing the food or processing the food. So such type of things is possible, and this can create a risk. So food is always at the risk, and we cannot control the hazard. They are there, but we can apply some good FSMS, food safety management system, good agriculture practice, good manufacturing practice, good hygiene practice, HACCP, threat analysis, vulnerable analysis, critical control point, preventive control, or the Food Safety and Standard Act and regulations or Codex Alimentarius, etc., and can prevent that hazard to get into our food. And with that, we can expect no risk in our food. And so this is in nutshell about the food safety. So we ensure through different regulations, we fulfill the mandate of the act. And at the same time, I had mentioned one of the feature of the act is also to give education And since the India is facing undernutrition, micronutrition, overnutrition, so FSSAI is also involved in giving recommendation to go for good food so that we can have a balanced and a sustainable life. So which is very well meeting the requirement of the SDG, which I had mentioned, Sustainable Development Goal of the United Nations. As you can see, there are a lot of deaths, millions of deaths happening due to cardiovascular disease or unhealthy lifestyle, alcohol, tobacco. So based on that, different regulations are being formed so that the lifestyle can be changed. Now you can see that FSSAI has also embarked on large-scale effort to transform the country's food system to ensure safe, healthy, and sustainable food for all Indians through the Eat Right India movement. So, Eat Right India movement, came with the motto to give the right food for a better living. Sahi Bhojan, Behtar Jeevan. This forms the foundation of this movement, and this is quite well aligned to the National Health Policy of 2017, with the focus of on promoting under different flagship programs like the Ayushman Bharat, Poshan Abhiyan, Anemia Mukt Bharat, Swachh Bharat mission. So all those things have been aligned to Eat Right India movement, with the emphasis that we eat the right food for a better living. So it go with the three mottos like eat safe, eat healthy, and eat sustainable. So what you should eat safe, it should make sure your personal and the surrounding hygiene, or you follow good sanitary and hygiene practices, or GHP, or you combat the adulteration, you reduce the toxins and contaminants in the food through better HACCP, or better food safety management practices, management systems. So that is the concept of eat safe. You have eat healthy, where we promote the diet diversity, balanced diet, eliminating toxic industrial trans fat from the food, reducing the consumption of high salt, sugar, saturated fat in the food. And the last but not the least is the eat sustainable. That means promoting local and seasonal food, or preventing the food loss, food waste, conserve water in the food value chain, or reduce the use of chemicals in the food production, etc. So this is the eat right, plate, which where we give more emphasis on fruits and vegetable, uh, and a balanced diet will have the cereals and pulses, fruits and vegetables, and plenty of water. Of course, milk and milk product, fish and fish product also, you can see have certain share, but not like the cereals or the fruits and vegetable. And other, you can see there is also a small share of the food having high fat and high sugar. But the advice that is given is you consume it sparingly, while the others like fruits and vegetable, cereals and pulses, you should consume liberally, and you should take it in adequate quantity, uh, and drink a lot of water. The emphasis is again, FSA advocates the high fat, sugar, and salt in the food should be avoided, especially the total fat, the saturated fat, the trans fat, added sugar, added salt. All those things should be avoided in the food. And we advocate this also to the manufacturing units, where the emphasis is to avoid the risk of diabetes, high blood pressure, or high heart attack disease that can happen due to the said parameter. That means the high fat, high sugar, or high salt. So, we are also very doing some nationwide social media campaign where you might have seen if in some of the movie theater, just like your tobacco ad, we our brand ambassador, the actor, Bollywood actor Rajkumar Rao, has come with a certain advertisement called "Aaj se thoda kam." That means from today onwards, little less of salt, little less of sugar, less of fat in my diet, so that we can, reduce the disease burden, especially the cardiovascular diseases as well as the diabetes. So we have, taken out different posters. You might see this in our website, where the emphasis is on reduce, replace, or limit, and also on monitor, measure, and avoid. Food fortification is again, a program of the Food Fortification Research Center, which is housed in FSSAI, and mainly to, the micronutrient deficiency, especially the iron for anemic patients, iodine, is used in the salt, zinc, vitamin A, vitamin D, and also the vitamin B, especially through the wheat flour or through rice, especially in the staple food, what we eat on a day-to-day basis. And the Food Fortification Center was launched some years back, where the Microsoft then CEO Bill Gates had come and launched it in our center. And the aim of fortification program is to improve the nutritional quality as well as to bring minimal risk to the health. So you can see some of the labels like plus F, fortified milk and oil. So if you can find the plus F logo, then it has been fortified with vitamin A and D, especially these are the two fat soluble vitamins. So they can easily, they can be mixed in milk as well as in oil. While the folic acid and B12 are part of, and iron are part of the fortified rice and wheat flour, while the iodine and iron are part of the double fortified salt. We are also linked to different schemes like the ICDS, the Integrated Child Development Schemes, midday meal schemes, and PDS, Public Distribution System, where we see that the fortification of fortified food goes to the people in a large way to avoid the micronutrient deficiencies. Another, regulation that has come in the past, right from 5% trans fat in the food, we have brought it down to 3%. Next year, it will be brought to 2%. And by 2022, we are, planning to eliminate trans fat when India attains 75 years of the independence, because the trans fat are the worst type of fats that contribute the bad cholesterol, the LDL and the VDL, and lowers the good cholesterol, the HDL. And they have been, the scientific studies prove that the trans fat can be linked to the heart disease, overweight, obesity, cancers, etc. So especially the industrial trans fat is one of the very big challenges, especially the hydrogenation or thermal treatment of the edible oil is big challenge. And partially hydrogenated oils you might have seen mainly used in the bakery food like vanaspati, margarine, and bakery shortenings. So FSSAI is, has launched a lot of awareness program. In this year, we are also planning to do, the trans fat food survey to see the ground reality. And we are, trying to gain a lot of public support for the government actions to eliminate the industrially produced trans fat from the country, and give education to the consumer about the trans fat. So these are all, part of the Eat Right India movement, where different associations like oil, bakery, individual bakeries have been, told to reduce and eliminate the trans fat by signing pledges, as well as we have also come out with certain regulations which they need to fulfill if we want to have the trans fat free India at by 2022, because this is a commitment of India, which we are on a very aggressive mode, and through proper way it will be done. So, of course, these are certain posters that have been advertised. You can see in our website, in our Twitter, in our Facebook page, all these posters where we are, educating the consumers, citizens of the country about the, bad effect of trans fat in the food. So as the consumer, if they don't buy such kind of food, like especially the fried items or baked items where the occurrence of trans fat is there, then eventually the manufacturer, if the consumer is not buying, then the manufacturer also won't be using it. So in both direction, we are educating the manufacturer, also educating the consumer with the purpose to have trans fat free India when India, celebrates the 75th year of independence in 2022. A healthy plate, as per we say, Har Jeevan Ho Poshan Se Roshan. That means every life should be blessed with this kind of food, a healthy plate with more emphasis on fruits and vegetable, pulses, and little of fats and oil, and also other animal based food. So as I said in the beginning, we are highly linked to all these sustainable development goals, like the SDG 2, SDG 3, SDG 6, SDG 9, SDG 12, and SDG 17. And we hope we could achieve what was framed in 2015, the SDG goals, for the next 15 years, because the agenda is 2030. So the time is ticking, and we have to fulfill the SDGs. And it's a collective responsibility, not only for the regulator, but also for you as students, for the consumers, for the citizens, for everyone. What I have mentioned is to fulfill the 5 P's, that is the people, the prosperity, peace, partnership, and the planet. So with that, we can, have a good, safe food definitely is essential. And food security is part and parcel of the food safety. And that is the reason, one of the reasons that we have, food safety is celebrated as another day. In fact, 2018, 2 years back, this World Food Safety Day started coming. But we had the World Food Day in October 16. So the emphasis now, the world is definitely is going on the food safety aspect, where we are, advocating one health approach, which can largely improve the food safety. Again, food safety is based on science, so we always apply it, and we are part and parcel with the world through WHO, FAO, and other stakeholders to keep the food safe. So with this, I thank you all for listening. I hope I justified this talk. Now we can have questions and answers, and I hope I can answer some of your doubts.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you for that informative session where we got to know a little bit more about FSSAI. And now it's the time for Q&A. And we have got certain questions, sir. So there is
Please.
Reshma Lewis was asked, baby foods also have food additives in it. How can we reduce this kind of activities in baby foods? Are cancer causing additives allowed in food as preservatives?
No, anything that is, having health implication is not allowed in the food. So it has to meet that particular standard. So in that way, it is not allowed. Now I will answer to Reshma Lewis' question. Baby food is also making food additive. Can you elaborate that?
I think what she meant is the baby food is being also made like inside the contents there is food additives that is being added. So that will also affect the
So
baby's growth.
if no, I mean it is permissible. What is permissible is allowed. So I already said FSSAI forms a standard not by its own. There is a scientific panel which do deliberate, discussions, thorough discussions before it goes to the scientific committee. From scientific
Okay.
committee, it goes to the food authority, and then it is going also in the global domain of WTO. So, so in that way, it goes through 3 and 4 levels of aspect. So definitely there is a check at every point. So I don't think the baby foods are currently compromised.
So there is Anaka who's asking, so how quality is assured for proprietary foods, especially by standards?
The proprietary foods are something which are unique in nature. They can, today you make your own fusion food or add some nutraceuticals into it. So we have a product, approval committee. When such application comes, again, it is a thorough, the committee looks into the aspect because the FBO, whether it is a manufacturer who is making the proprietary food, has to also give the full, declaration, what content was used, what all the technical aspect of those things has to be, provided to the committee. They will look into it, and applying the science, again the quality is assessed, and if it require any clinical study, that is also is being, the manufacturer has to do it, and after that this one will I mean that is how the proprietary food is being assessed.
So there is Aisha who's asking, MSG is bad, but why exactly?
Well, monosodium glutamate, of course, in large weight is it is bad. But if you see the taste enhancer, it is it is something like your umami. It gives a feeling of umami sensory perception. So if it is within the limit, it is not bad. Okay, but the prescribed limit has to be there, and it has to be mentioned also in the label. Otherwise, if it is not declared in the label and it is exceeding the limit, then it is a flavor enhancer, MSGs.
So there is Haimudas is asking, does pan masala, tobacco, alcohol come under regulation of FSSAI?
Yes, wherever you find the logo of FSSAI, it comes under the purview of FSSAI. I don't find the logo in cigarette boxes, so it doesn't come. But alcohol, yes, I have seen the logo there, so it is under the ambit of FSSAI. Not all food products, but alcohol, not tobacco, not yet.
Okay. I think one last question, challenges to food import and export in the pandemic condition.
Well, initially we had the challenge, especially in the lockdown, because of the transportation issue. But as on today, there are not much issues except, where the food testing. In fact, even during the lockdown, we had given special permission to the labs across the country to do the testing of food so that they can meet the importing country compliance, as well as the food that is imported to India meets the Indian requirement, the FSSAI requirement. So as on now, there are no much challenges but yes, in the initial days, for a little, I would say not much, maybe for a week or so, because there was a confusion. But soon, FSSAI was very good enough to came out with certain, notification. If you see our website, I can take you to my screen. I hope it is shared here. I hope you can see my screen.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I'll just take you to the website. So in the pandemic, we had a special tab called COVID-19. You can see. You can see here COVID-19. So right from the start, we started making posters and things like that. The notification started coming, how to go with the regulatory compliance, go with the imports, and it all started way back in May. You can see the order started coming in the April 2020. If you are looking into the regulatory compliance for India for the domestic market, then it started still earlier. I hope my screen is visible. So these are something related to the regulatory compliance. You can see the orders started coming way back in March itself on how to do the functioning of essential services in the food safety. All these things are there. So FSSAI in fact was very proactive to deal with the situation, and as of now it is all under control. Nothing to worry.
Okay, sir. There are some more questions that have come. Sir, can I just ask you two more questions?
Yes, please go ahead.
Do FSSAI prescribe food packaging standards also?
Yes, FSSAI do have a packaging, regulations. All these things you can see in the food laws. I hope my website is still visible.
Yes, it's visible.
So in that you can see the regulations, and in the regulations you will find all those. You can even type on packaging. There are certain regulation which has been notified. You can see the package and the labeling regulations 2011 with their amendment and the compendium that is being depicted here. So yes, it is there.
I think
because through packaging also, if the ink that is being used in the printing is not proper, it gets if the food contamination, the ink can get transferred or get migrated from the packet to the food. So that can be a challenge. You might have seen also, some years back, FSSAI came with the regulation not to, like your samosa, padampuri and things not to be wrapped in newspaper, because the lead in the newspaper can get migrate to the food product, and that can become a danger for the health. So such kind of timely advice regulations are coming.
Okay,
Hello?
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for all answering almost all questions that have come in the chat box. It was a very interesting session for us. Now, for a formal vote of thanks, let me just call upon one of our students, Mr. Shafaz. Shafaz, if you could please propose a vote of thanks.
Hello, can you hear me? Am I visible and audible?
Yes, you are.
Right.
Yes.
What a pleasant afternoon we are having, isn't it? Wishing you all the best for the day ahead. Myself, Jafar K.A., representing the Department of Tourism and Hotel Management. I'm here today to express my sincere gratitude to each and everyone who gathered here. On behalf of the entire Institute, I would like to thank our Honorable Chief Guest, Dr. Sanu Jacob, Director of FSSAI, who is a cheerful, confident, creative, caring, considerate person, and more. Sir, we really appreciate the time you're spending with us today. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for your presence and inspiring words. And even like MEDS 2021 may not happen overnight, I sincerely appreciate the management of Nirmala College of Arts and Science, the coordinators of MEDS 2021, the technical and promotional wing, all others who have worked hard to make this event a grand success. The Honorable Chairman of Nirmala College of Arts and Science, Mr. Sajeev Watuli, our Executive Director, Mrs. Dali Sajeev. You both are so generous, kind, and helpful at all the time. Please accept my heartfelt gratitude for all your support and encouragement. Our principal, Professor Murugan Babu Sia, a very organized, professional, and forward-thinking person. We couldn't have pulled off this without your presence. Sir, thank you so much. Our Vice Principal, Dr. Jojo Siakar, a man with compassion, leadership, and motivation. Thank you for all your hard work on this, sir. Finally, I'm entirely grateful to all the participants in this beautiful session. Without your presence and patient listening, this event may not be a grand success. I thank you all for taking your time to be here on this webinar session. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And before all the participants leave, just a gentle reminder that there are more exciting webinars coming for you on Monday at 9:30 a.m. We have Dr. N.A. Jojomoon, Associate Professor and Head Department of Commerce, talking on practical approaches to social science. So stay tuned. So here's Sukanya signing out. Thank you and have a nice day. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you. Have a nice weekend. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.